We're going to talk about Jordan Henderson. The Liverpool captain is on the brink of a move to Saudi Arabia side Al-Ettifaq after the two clubs agreed an initial £12 million fee. Over the past few months, we've seen plenty of stellar names move to that part of the world, a country where being homosexual is illegal and LGBTQI plus rights are not recognised by the government. But this transfer feels very different because Jordan Henderson has consistently praised, supported and fought for the rights of inclusivity and diversity in football. The Sky Sports presenter Mark McAdam, an openly gay man, tweeted this yesterday. Disappointed in Jordan Henderson's stance, but not surprised. 99% of the footballers that speak out for LGBT community do it because they have to, not because they want to. Many do it for profile. Very few actually care. No issue with him going to Saudi, just makes his words empty. Mark joins us on the programme now. Mark, what are your thoughts on this proposed move?
Good morning, guys. Pretty much as I said in my tweet, I think it's a real disappointing move for Jordan Henderson because when you look at footballers these days, they have two options. They have the token lip service stuff that they do once a year when it comes to supporting the Rainbow Laces campaign or Football v Homophobia. They speak to the press officer and they say, oh, I've got to do an interview. What have I got to say? Oh, just make sure you say that football's for everyone. Make sure you say that any LGBT fans are welcome at the stadium and that if you had a gay teammate, there's no problem with that as well. That's what the message we want to get out there. And then they go, yeah, thanks very much. And that's what they say in their interviews. And that's what most of them do. And then there are a very few minority that go one step further. People like Jordan Henderson, people like Conor Cody, who have been so vocal in their support of the LGBT community that it really resonates with so many people. Jordan Henderson, for example, had an exchange with a gay Liverpool fan on social media, and that fan said, look, you really make me feel more comfortable in my own skin. You make me feel more comfortable going to Anfield because I know that I've got an ally in you and you're someone that understands me and my difficulties and my situation and how scared I've been to go to football by being a part of the LGBT plus community. So when you see Jordan Henderson move to somewhere where they don't have any rights, where they're not welcome, where many of them face, severe punishment for just being gay, it almost just feels like, unfortunately, those words that meant so much to so many people feel a little bit more empty now.
Do you think that there is a danger that in the future people will be sceptical when players speak on these issues? And it's sad because this appears to be taking a large broad brush and painting everybody, and people are individuals. You've already mentioned there's certain players that say things that do resonate. But is it an awkward truth that many align themselves with noble causes because it helps raise their profile and not because they genuinely care?
Yeah, no, I genuinely believe that. There are a number of players. David Beckham could be, a big example. Someone that was so vocally supportive about the community many, many, many years ago when no one would go near it. He was on the front, cover of gay magazines. He spoke about having gay children and how that wouldn't be a problem. And then he goes and becomes an ambassador for the World Cup. So therefore, at one stage he uses that opportunity to promote his profile and to show what a good guy he is. And then on the other hand, down the line, he takes the money to support a regime where if you're a woman, you weren't allowed to go and watch football as a spectator until 2018. Only 5 years ago did that change. We're not just talking about LGBT rights, we're talking about human rights and women's rights and other things like that within Saudi Arabia. So there are a number of players that use this as an opportunity and they see this as a vehicle to promote themselves, to build their following, to show that they're this inclusive person that's modern and forward-thinking. But actually, how many of them genuinely care? And unfortunately, when the money's put on the table, their stance changes.
Mark, there have been people who've come out in support of Jordan Henderson and suggested that maybe one of the reasons that he's contemplating this move is because he believes he can be a better ambassador for the LGBT community by going to Saudi Arabia and spreading his message there. Do you have an opinion on that?
Well, we took the World Cup to Russia in 2018. Has Russia progressed with their LGBTQI policy since 2018? Probably not. Probably arguably gone backwards. You'd have to speak to Russian LGBT people and say, is your life better or worse now since the World Cup? And the same in Qatar. Speak to people. A year ago, what was your life like? And what's it like now? Has there been an influence? Has there been a positive message come through from all of the profile and publicity and media scrutiny that has been attached to these big events, has it made a difference to your lives? Because ultimately, that's the most important thing, is that people from the LGBT community living in these countries suffer on a daily basis. They're scared to be who they are, they're persecuted, and they're treated completely differently to other citizens. So that is something that you'd have to fire at those people, because that's the people that we care about ultimately. And I speak in a privileged position. I'm lucky I can be myself, I can live my life, I'm not judged, for who I fall in love with or who I spend my time with. I sit in a very comfortable place in the UK where everyone is far more accepting and tolerant of who I am and our community. So it's the people that don't have that voice, that can't say how they feel, that are too scared to be themselves. They're the people that really matter in this situation. And on the flip side of it as well, and I need to make this clear, I've got no problem with Jordan Henderson taking the money. £100 million contract for 3 years. He probably hasn't earned £100 million in the last 15 years put together. And now he's got this opportunity to earn so much money. And on the flip side of that, by the way, as well, what an unbelievable captain he is. And I think that's important to point out. I don't want this to be a Jordan Henderson bash. I think he's been an incredible captain. I think only when he has gone from Liverpool will they realise just how important he was for that group and that team and that midfield. And most importantly, in the dressing room and off the pitch. And I think they're big factors as well. But it just brings into focus this amount of money that people are being paid to go over to there, and it becomes a bigger picture of sports washing, where suddenly there are so many sportsmen. You've seen it with Live Golf, you've seen it with the tennis, you've seen it with footballers that are going over there, and they're becoming a vehicle to this situation. And I think that's the bigger picture that needs to be looked at as well, because there's so much depth to what we're talking about.
There absolutely is, Mark. And a lot of the things that you have brought up are societal issues. And
yes,
there will be some that argue that we have become obsessed with politicising football. And he's become a victim of this. What would you say?
Well, I think football is the world's language. And if you can use football as a vehicle to change the world and to make people's lives better, which it does on so many occasions, then brilliant. And if you're one of those footballers that wants to put your head above the parapet and talk about these issues, whether it's the LGBT plus community or women's rights or kids' rights or, stuff about heading the ball and dementia, if you want to use your profile and your platform to change the world and to enhance people's lives, then absolutely you should have the ability to do that. And if you don't want to do that, then don't. And that's where perhaps this little bit of grey area hangs over Jordan Henderson, because he has been so supportive and so vocal, and he has been one of those people that's been right at the forefront of speaking out when there are so few footballers, even now in 2023, that are prepared to do so.
And I guess the other fear now is that Jordan Henderson's words are going to be used as a stick to beat him with. I've got a paragraph he said here in 2019 that we're going to talk about after the next break. Is there a concern that actually this will have a negative impact in terms of footballers coming out and supporting this community, because maybe a decision they make down the line, their words might be used to haunt them? This could be a real step backwards, couldn't it?
Absolutely. No, it could step the whole situation backwards. And I've been in situations and meetings. I do a series on Sky Sports called I'm Game, which comes around once a year, and we take LGBT plus celebrities into sporting environments. We've taken comedians, and we've taken pop stars, and we've taken TV presenters that all come from the community into sport, and to show them that it is an inclusive place, that they are accepted, they are welcome. I took Tom Allen to West Ham. We went to a West Ham home game, and the fans loved him, and he was treated with respect, and he was treated the way that you'd expect anyone to be treated. He wasn't, he went in that environment, and they were just happy to see him supporting their team, regardless of his sexuality. But I sit in these meetings so often, and I say to football clubs, and I say to sports organisations and promoters and people, I say, would you be prepared to do something for Rainbow Laces? Would you be prepared to have a gay male or female come into your environment and talk to you about these issues and see what it's like and find out what it really is like? Peel back the layers, look behind the curtain and go deep into this subject. And the answer I get so many times is no. No, sorry, they don't want to do that. Oh, no, they've got a sponsor that would affect, or they don't want to be seen to be, too close to that community because it might affect them down the line. So like you say, it feels like a step backwards, because there'll be so many agents and there'll be so many footballers and other people within the world of sport that look at this situation and think, well, could I end up out in Saudi Arabia? Could I end up at Newcastle? Could I end up connected to these people in some way? So therefore, actually, the safest option for me is to say nothing. And then that's where the community loses out. That's where that young kid from Liverpool that is gay and doesn't have someone to look up to is losing out. Because before, he had his captain, he had his leader, he had the man that he really, really looked up to and thought, if my captain says it's okay for me to be gay, then I know that I can be okay with myself. And I think that's the biggest thing. 82% of the LGBT plus community suffer with mental health issues. And I've been there, by the way, and I really struggled for many, many years. It's so hard. But if you've got an ally and if you've got someone there that you can look up to, that can completely change your life and your mindset. And it means you can live a healthy, happy life without that thing that constantly niggles in the back of your brain about your sexuality.